The job seeking slump, it's so real and it's so present. And I don't know, it feels more than ever like it's an issue. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think especially with the introduction of AI, with the economic slump, there are so fewer jobs out there and there's so many more people applying to them. So it is really tough because the number of applications per role has gone up dramatically. So the competition is bigger and people have more tools kind of in their toolkit now than ever before in ways that actually create a real disparity. For example, AI. If you are a white male from a privately educated background, you have a nice 7% chance of having a paid version of AI. Whereas if you are a Black state school educated female, you have a 3% chance of having paid AI. That's a real significant difference. And so it is really hard because people have access to things that you may not. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed. And it doesn't mean that they're going to do better than you. To make it harder, the competition, there is such a significant difference. And there are, we've had a reduction in graduate roles this year, an increase in school leaver roles, which is great for apprentices, but it is harder. There is a lot more competition out there.
So if you are in a slump right now, you are not alone.
Absolutely not.
I think it's the majority.
Absolutely. When you go on LinkedIn, when you speak to students, it is the same for absolutely everyone. When you see people saying, I've got that job, it's great. What you don't see is all the work that has gone in behind that, the number of applications, the panic, the fear, the self-loathing of what am I doing wrong and why is this not working? All of those things I think are completely normal and unfortunately are just part of the job seeking process now. And it is tricky. It's really, really hard. But the average graduate, for example, is doing 26 graduate applications per year. So when you think about how many graduates there are alone, not even thinking about school leavers, those who've already graduated, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough one and it's not a unique position. It feels it at the time.
Yeah.
Because no one talks about it. No one sat there posting on Instagram or LinkedIn how many jobs they've been rejected from. But it absolutely is out there and it's really hard.
Yeah. I'm going to come in with the rejection emails, but even before that, just not hearing at all, is that more common than even a rejection email?
I think it has become in that way.
Yeah. And is that just pure lack of capacity on them that
the recruiters said? Yeah, it's the volumes now where you used to have a role and you'd maybe say you got 50 applications, which was already a lot to go through. Suddenly you're looking at least 100.
Yeah.
And very similar applications, very similar quality. It's becoming more and more common. I think you should be able to get something back to no. And, I changed jobs in October 2024 and I applied for a job in February 2024 before I was even at that point of looking to change jobs. I got rejected from that job via email in January 2025. So sometimes they're coming and it's just taking a long time. It is a really hard one. Companies are really struggling with resource. They're using AI. Sometimes they don't have the tools to do it. And it's a manual email when your volumes are so high. Companies are reporting that for school leaver apprenticeships and for graduate applications, they're receiving like tens of thousands of applications a year, which is a very, very high volume to respond to. And it's not an excuse because you put the time and effort into that application, even if it is just an email letting you know. I think you should. But unfortunately, at the moment, it's just an industry challenge because recruitment teams have been made smaller, but applications have grown. So you do find that people are doing that. I think the silence is awful. Sometimes the automated rejection is even worse, especially if it's been screened by AI, where 15 minutes after you submit that application, you've been rejected. It's so hard not to take that personally. It is scanning for keywords. It is not a reflection of you or your application, but it can be really hard.
Yeah.
To have that silence, to have that rejection, all of those things feel awful. The silence gives you that sense of hope a little bit, which is harder because you're still waiting and waiting and waiting. So it's really tricky.
So what can you do in the silence? Do you just accept that you may not ever hear and have to move on? Or
I think it depends. Can you chase them? Is that allowed? Yeah, it's a really hard one because I think if I was applying for a job now as an experienced hire, often there's a recruiter lead to it. I could drop them a message. With early careers, it's a really different beast because it's a whole different team doing it. And actually, you could be one of 500 students who reach out to them.
Yeah.
And you may still not get a response, which can be really hard. It's also trying to understand the timelines of hiring first, because you could be chasing for a response after 72 hours. And actually, they're not going to respond to you for 3 weeks. So you've had 3 weeks of silence, but actually that was always what their planned timelines were. So I think it's also understanding what the recruitment process timelines are, because especially
different for every company.
Yes, absolutely. It depends on their volumes, their team size, their vacancies. It really does depend. So like, for example, at Forvis Mazars, our applications opened in October. Our assessment centres didn't start until November. So there was at least a month before people were being scheduled in. Now, we do email people, so they do find out. But I know other firms, similar timelines, but didn't have the capacity to email people. So they waited thinking, oh, I've not heard anything, I've not got in. And then they're getting an invite to an assessment centre. So we do have that, but we also are very clear, like, it can be anywhere between, you might hear in 72 hours, you might hear in 2 weeks. And we're really clear on our timelines. So if a student chases after 24 hours, it's not the best impression.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we do understand it's tricky. But I think with early careers, it's finding that balance of how you frame that chase and what you're doing. Because, sometimes things get lost in systems. So it's never a bad thing to do it. It's just how you word it and how you do it and how long you wait.
And how do you find out how long you should wait? Like, if you're not informed, is it a guessing game? And is it generally safe to just be like, haven't heard in a month, chase?
Yeah, I think that's a really reasonable one. I also think there's always a lot of information online. So like, check out their website, check out their FAQ. There's often a lot of information there around that. In the FAQ, what is the selection process? What are the timelines? Things like that. When you're applying, it might be in there, and it can be overwhelming when you're doing an application. You're like, I need to put all these details in, see if it is on there somewhere. After a month, absolutely give it a chase. Just think about how you word that. If I applied a month ago, I just wanted to know if I'd be successful or if there's a next step, rather than I haven't heard anything. I really wanted to, because totally understandable feeling. Not the best way to communicate to a future employer.
Yep. Valid. Nice. So that's dealing with the silence. Then how do we deal with a rejection email?
It's hard. You've put time and effort into an application. You've wanted that job enough to give up your time to do so. And then you get that rejection. And it hurts. There's no two ways about it. I think there's a few things to look at. If you really want that job, what do you need to do to get it next time you apply? So is there feedback? Now, I know that feedback is not offered at every stage because of that increase in applications, where it used to be that after first round interview, you'll get feedback. It's now after assessment centre, you'll get feedback, because there's just so many. But if there is feedback available, really try and take it on board. And if you really want that job and you're willing to wait for it, reapply. It shows resilience. It shows determination. It shows that like ownership. I'm going to upskill myself. I'm going to act on that feedback and I'm going to change these things. If not, that's okay too. Like, actually, move on. And it feels really hard, really easy to say, but everyone is getting rejections at some point. And it's about how to frame it. Like, was that the right job for you? Because the selection process is not to catch you out. The selection process is to assess if you are right for that role and that organization. It's never perfect. So it's not to say like, oh, it's not right. But that process has ruled you out, which means that actually they didn't want to set you up to fail. So it's reframing it of, okay, this has avoided like a situation where I was going to be put in a situation I wasn't ready for. So thinking about it that way, and also thinking, okay, with that role, what is it I liked? What is it I didn't like? What out there is similar? What else can I apply for that offers what this role was offering? And just seeing if there is feedback. It's always worth asking, is there feedback? If they come back and say no, at least you've asked. And take it as a learning opportunity. You learn so much more from rejections and fails than you do from getting it. And I think that's the key thing, is what can you do differently? And think about that feedback as well. So when people get rejected from a job and they do get feedback, I'm always like, so if they're giving you really specific feedback on the technical element of the job, that job was never right for you, because that bit was the key part. If it's like more about your communication skills and things like that, that's really helpful, because you can like amend that and it's really transferable. That's what you're getting the positive feedback on. It gives you that confidence boost of, okay, it was this technical element of this specific thing. So you can use it in that way as well.
Yeah, perfect. So you've been applying for months and months and months and you're not getting anywhere. What can you do? Is it that you're doing something wrong? Are you applying to too many things? Are you applying to not enough things? Is there a common case?
It's so hard to answer this one because everyone is different. What I would say is, if you are applying with the same application to every single job, you're doing it wrong and you're doing too many. You need to tailor. You cannot tailor to every job application and do loads of applications at the same time. And I would always say that people are better off doing fewer applications that are tailored and higher quality than mass applications that are identical. So it's really hard in that respect. I also sometimes think, take a step back, have a fresh set of eyes over, if it's CVs you're doing, if it's answers, like have a fresh look at those. Like, what else could you do? For example, with job descriptions, can you scan for the keywords? You could use AI to do that, scan for the keywords. Does your CV have those keywords in there? When you're talking about those examples, are you focusing on those companies? So on a company's website, if they're talking about their values or the skills they're looking for, are your answers reflecting those values? But take that step back, take a beat, pause, get someone else to have a look and really reflect on it yourself. Mm-hmm. I'd also say it's normal. Everyone is doing the same thing. It just feels really, really hard. But what will come from it is you will find the right job. It just will take time. And by the time you do find that job, you'll have forgotten about all your notification and then it will come around again.
Yeah. So you've been applying for ages, which might mean that you've been out of work for ages. So you've got a gap on your CV. Mm-hmm. How do employers look upon that?
I think the days of, oh, that's a red flag are gone, because the job market is really tough. People know that. Again, it's how you frame that. What did you use that time for? I was using this time to apply for jobs. I was doing this course. I was working part-time. I was making sure that I was intentional in my applications. So actually, it took me a little bit of time to find the right job, because I was applying for the jobs that are right for me rather than just applying for anything. So it's all about that framing and that storytelling piece. And I think that's key. I was at an event years ago where someone talked about their journey from working in investment banking to working at a children's charity to working for something for the Australian government. And she said, at each interview, I had to explain why I wanted such a big shift. But it was about the story I told, about the skills that I'd taken from one job and that I wanted to apply, and the passion that one job had ignited that I wanted to apply to that. And whilst when you look at my CV, it's completely random, the story you tell from it actually makes total sense. And so it's what that narrative and what that story is. Mm-hmm. I was being intentional looking for the right jobs. I was taking time to upskill. I was taking time to focus on myself, to, there's lots of different things. So it's all about that framing. And I think people know the job market is really tough at the moment. I don't think it's seen in the same way as previously. And as long as you can explain it, I don't think it's as much of an issue at all. Phew.
What is one small realistic change the people out there that are on the job hunt, in the slump, what can they do that will make a difference?
Really hard question. How to stand out. I think it's, first of all, make tools work for you. Like, make them work harder for you. So you set up LinkedIn job alerts. If you're using, job boards, make sure you've got the alerts set up. Make sure you're checking them, that your filters are set up, that you've registered your interest. So things are landing in your inbox. So you're not having to work as hard in finding them. So your energy can go on the application. I think the thing that will make people stand out is when they've really done their research. And I don't just mean a quick Google search. Everyone can read a website. Look at their socials. Look at, their statement on diversity, equity and inclusion. Look at what they do for corporate social responsibility. What is it that resonates with you? Because the reason I chose to work at Forbes Mazars, for example, will be completely different to a colleague. But that will come through and it'll sound so like it'll be authentic because it's you. Mm-hmm. I'm sharing what connects you to that job or that role. What is it that excites you? So do your research and show what that personal connection is, and do more than just look at the website, but actually, I saw that your team did a volunteering day and I thought that was really interesting. And I seen that you work with this client and I think working on such cool clients. Or I actually saw someone who said a few months ago that I was like, oh, wow, I love that. And it's not to say take this answer and do it, but I saw such a so posting on LinkedIn and they're really at the top of their game. And I want to work with people who are just like the best of the best and I want to learn from them. And everywhere I look on LinkedIn, I see these people talking and they are the best of the best. And I want to do that. Now, if I went in and said that, like I work in early careers recruitment, if I'm saying I want to work with the best of the best in terms of accountants, like absolutely I do. But that's not going to be enough of a motivation to be in an early careers role. So it's not authentic to me. So it's being authentic to yourself, but really doing that research.
Yeah. For a lot of past roles, I've often reached out to somebody within the company.
Yeah.
Now, bearing in mind, as we've previously said, hundreds of thousands of people might have the same idea. So is it worth doing?
Always. I still think it's worth doing, and it's thinking about who you're reaching out to. So if you're reaching out to the recruiter, is that the right person? Do you want to know about the recruitment process? Do you want to do that? Because absolutely. If you want to know about the day-to-day life, reach out to someone doing the day-to-day job. So think about who you're reaching out to rather than, I've seen this person works at this place, so I'm going to message them. Why are you messaging them? Have that reason. But absolutely, there's never any harm. The worst that they can do is say, no, I can't help you, or ignore you.
Yeah.
Nothing has lost.